What's going on, Packer fans? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. One day. We are 1 day away from Packers football, Packers Vikings in Minnesota. It's not even anticipation at this point. Like, it is literally just like, get here already. It is almost time for Packers football. I can't wait. I know you can't wait either. But we still have stuff to break down, right? We have a great Packers Vikings matchup that has some really fun battles that I'm insanely looking forward to. So we'll get to those in just a moment. I hope you all had an opportunity to check out our very first Pack a Day happy hour. A huge thank you again to Dusty Evely, Perry Goldstein, and Maggie Loney for joining me on Friday. If you didn't get a chance to check it out, it is recorded, so you can check it out here on the Pack a Day Podcast YouTube channel. But remember, that'll be 4:30 p.m. Central every Friday. And then on Tuesdays, we will be doing Pack a Day Live at 7 p.m. with this week's special guest, Ben Fennell and Aaron Nagler. So make sure to subscribe if you have not already. But let's kick things off right away with a pretty important injury report and injury update from Friday. So first, we find out that David Bakhtiari and Allen Lazar did not practice on Friday, which is usually a indicator that they will not play. And certainly, we had this immediate reaction of like, okay, why is David Bakhtiari not practicing again? Which we still don't have much clarity on. When Matt Lafleur was asked about it, he basically said, I'm done talking about it. So that's not great. At least it doesn't seem great. Apparently, Bakhtiari was on the exercise bike to the side. So we don't know the full extent of if there was any sort of setback. It sounds like at least the initial reporting was that there wasn't a setback, but I don't know. To me, if a player is practicing and then they are not practicing, that still seems like some sort of setback to me. So we don't know the gist of everything with David Bakhtiari, but we got a little bit of an update later when the injury report came out, and it listed both David Bakhtiari and Elgton Jenkins as questionable and Allen Lazard as doubtful. Now, there is some good news hidden here, right? Because that means Mason Crosby, Robert Tonyan, Christian Watson, and everyone else will be available to play in this game. And how much Tonyan plays, how much Watson plays will remain to be seen. Crosby will clearly be their top kicker for this game. It wouldn't totally shock me if Ramiz Ahmed got a call up, maybe just to do kickoffs if Crosby wasn't 100% healthy. That could be within the realm of possibility. I don't think that's going to happen, but you would basically just expect at this point Mason Crosby to be the kicker. So certainly a lot of good news there. Now, let's start with Allen Lazard, because that one seems very cut and dry, right? Didn't practice all week, doesn't practice on the key day, which is Friday, and then is listed as doubtful on the injury report. Certainly, that doesn't mean that it's 100% open and shut case that he won't play, but I just don't see the avenue where they're like, okay, all of a sudden he's good to go on Sunday and we're going to, chance it and risk it in week 1 on Minnesota's turf. It just doesn't make any sense at this point, right? So I would be surprised. I would be very, very, very surprised if Allen Lazard played in this game. And then that leaves David Bakhtiari and Elgton Jenkins. And it felt to me like Green Bay was basically telling us what was probably going to happen this upcoming Sunday. And what I mean by that is the two that didn't practice were Bakhtiari and Allen Lazard. And if I had to guess, I would say both of them will not be playing because they did not practice on Friday. If I had to guess, I'm slightly leaning towards that Elgton Jenkins will play since he did practice on Friday. I just don't understand, if he was not going to play on Sunday, don't you give those reps to somebody else and make sure that they're ready to play? So I'm leaning towards Jenkins will likely play and Bakhtiari and Lazard will not. I think it's very clear Lazard will not. I would say it's probably 70% that Bakhtiari doesn't. The only thing that gives me hesitation is that earlier in the week, Bakhtiari had made the comment that he expects to play this weekend and that everything was trending in the direction for him to play this weekend. And it's possible that maybe they just wanted to give him a rest day based on where his body was at and save him up for the game on Sunday. So I'm not totally ruling it out. I just think it probably doesn't look great with him not practicing on Friday. And if I had to bet, I would lean more towards he doesn't play and they give him an extra week of rest and don't have him play on that Minnesota field turf. Jenkins, also tough to decipher, right? Because coming back from an ACL, this is week 1, and it's in Minnesota where he injured the ACL in the first place. Do you give him one more week? And it's so tough to tell, right? We just don't have a great feel for it. But I'm going to go with my gut here. I'm going to say Bakhtiari and Lazard do not play. I'm going to say Jenkins does play. I'm more confident in that Lazard and Bakhtiari won't play than I am that Jenkins will play. But if I had to guess today, if I were a betting man today, that's what I would lean towards as of right now. As far as how that affects things, clearly the offensive line massively in flux. And we've gone over this ad nauseum for a million, episodes in this offseason so far. But the difference between Bakhtiari, John Runyon Jr., Josh Myers, and then probably Royce Newman and Elton Jenkins, right? Your clear starting five at this point. Whether Royce Newman should be in there or not, we can certainly leave up for debate. Not what I would do. I would probably have Zach Tom in there. I would even have Jake Hansen in there ahead of Royce Newman at this point. But that would be their preferred five. But the difference between that preferred five with Bakhtiari and Jenkins in there, to Yosh Nijman, John Runyon Jr., Josh Myers, and then probably Jake Hansen and Royce Newman at right tackle is just massive, especially when you are going against a Minnesota defensive front that includes a very hungry Zadarius Smith to get back at his old team, and Danielle Hunter, who has missed a lot of time due to injury and seems very healthy right now, which could very well be a problem. He probably wants to make up for a little bit of lost time. So I am very intrigued. Now, if you told me it's Yosh and Elton Jenkins at right tackle with Yosh at left and probably Royce Newman at right guard, okay, that's livable. We can get through that. If you told me it was Bakhtiari at left tackle, and then, I don't know, it's a little bit shakier because I don't think Yosh would play right. I just don't. I don't think they feel comfortable with him on the right side. So I think in that scenario, you probably still have Hansen at right guard and then Newman at right tackle. Don't feel great about that right side, but getting Bakhtiari back would still be a huge boost. And then, so either way, the offensive line massively affected one way or the other. And then on the other side, no Allen Lazard, right? So you're going to have some of these younger wide receivers step up. Yes, Randall Cobb will get a lot of run in the slot. Yes, Sammy Watkins will get a lot of run on the outside, but they're going to play a lot of 11 personnel, and that's going to leave reps for Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, maybe a little Amari Rodgers. So we'll see exactly how they use these wide receivers. I can't wait to see how they utilize these wide receivers, but I think there's going to be some real opportunities for guys like Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson to get involved in this game and to potentially have a very big impact. So they have players to take their places. It's not like, Royce Newman and Yosh Nijman and, and some of the, like Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb, it's not like they, haven't played a lot of football in the past. Now, Jake Hansen, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, all definitely, newer to actually getting playing time on Sundays for Hansen. And of course, the other two are rookies. So there's a lot to figure out here. But overall, wide receiver, I feel a lot better with. Even though I know Lazard's number one and a huge piece for Aaron Rodgers and everything, I think they have the depth to get through that. Offensive line, I feel a lot more shaky if all of a sudden Jenkins and Bakhtiari both don't play in that game. And I think it could swing the game. I think if they have at least one of those guys, I think it swings more in the favor of Green Bay. I think if they have both, very much in the favor of Green Bay. I don't think if they have either, I think that swings in the advantage of the Minnesota Vikings to potentially win that game. All right. We also found out who are the official captains for the Packers. On offense, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Mercedes Lewis. On defense, Kenny Clark, Devondre Campbell, and Adrian Amos. 21 total players received votes for team captain, which is pretty impressive. So some names interesting on the list: no Rashawn Gary, no Mason Crosby, Jair Alexander, David Bakhtiari. There's a couple other ones, but overall, I think these six make a ton of sense. Clearly, Rodgers is going to be one. I love seeing Aaron Jones get the recognition and credit for that he deserves, and him being a team captain, because he's the consummate teammate, professional, everything, exactly what you want out of a potential offensive captain. Mercedes Lewis, same thing. Love seeing Kenny Clark, Devondre Campbell, Adrian Amos. I don't think you could ask for a better six captains to represent the team this upcoming season. So those are your official captains heading into the regular season. And then we will see once they get to the postseason if those change up in any capacity. All right, let's get to our main event, our main topic for today. And that is all the key matchups that, in my opinion, will ultimately decide this game. And a lot of these, and I mean a lot of these, I think have the potential to be really fun matchups. So let's start with the one that we've been talking about. I won't go into it in too much more detail here, but you've got the Packers offensive line versus Zadarius Smith, Danielle Hunter, Dalvin Tomlinson, and then Harrison Phillips in that group. And as I said, You got Bakhtiari and Jenkins out there, at least one of the two. I think that swings it in Green Bay's favor. If they're missing both, now all of a sudden Z, Hunter have a real opportunity to eat, get in the backfield, cause chaos both in the run game and in the pass game, and that could be a recipe for disaster for Green Bay. So how this offensive line matches up, and then more importantly, like who's ever out there, whoever the 5 is, they just have to go out and play a brand of football that gives the Packers an opportunity to win. And there should be some trust in Adam Stenavich and Luke Butkus that, hey, they're going to put their best 5 guys out there that they have available to them, and they're going to find a way to get the job done. Because more often than not, that has been what this Green Bay, Packer offensive line has done. That being said, we go back to last season. They were far less effective, and understandably so. You don't have Bakhtiari, Corey Linsley leaves, and then Elton Jenkins gets hurt in Minnesota last year. So clearly there's going to be a bit of a downfall when all of that happens in one fell swoop. But they weren't as effective. They didn't run the ball as effectively. They weren't as effective in the red zone. They didn't create those explosive plays. And there is a lot of opportunity for growth along that offensive line. And even if you have some injuries there to Bakhtiari and Jenkins, it's not unreasonable to say that in Yash's second full year, or almost full year, he didn't play the full year last year, but he got a lot of snaps a season ago. And now in his second year, now with a year of experience under his belt, after 2 redshirt seasons, that he could take a jump. It's not, it shouldn't be unexpected if John Runyon Jr., after his really great year last year, if he takes a jump. Josh Myers in year 2, Royce Newman in year 2, Jake Hansen with his first real playing time. It's not, unfathomable or unreasonable to expect that some of those offensive linemen could have had a real improvement. And I think there should be some expectations, especially from guys like Josh Myers and John Runyon Jr., and I think to a lesser extent, Yosh Nijman, that those guys can play better than they did a season ago. So your job is to go out and win those matchups. And again, you're going to have a very hungry Zadarius Smith, a very hungry Danielle Hunter. You're going to be playing on the road, hostile environment, super loud, and you're going to have to be on your A game because you're going to have to make sure you got your silent countdown. You're going to have to make sure you're in communication with your offensive lineman, that maybe if it is, Bakhtiari or Elton Jenkins in there, or you could be playing, next to a guy that you haven't really played much with, at least not recently. So there's going to be, communication is going to be key. There's probably going to be some breakdowns at times, but they just have to go out there and block the guy ahead of them. They have the talent to do so, but I would love to see them establish a running game early and often. Listen, for as good as Zadarius Smith is, and as much as I expect him to make some plays in this game, he has not been a good run defender. That has to be a point of emphasis where Green Bay can potentially attack that. So I do think there's opportunities here, but how this Packers offensive line matches up against the Vikings defensive front will very much go a long way in swinging this game one way or the other. On the opposite side, you've got Kenny Clark versus Garrett Bradbury. And Kenny Clark has basically owned Garrett Bradbury. And that gives Green Bay a massive advantage. Now, they've got different ways to line up this defensive front now, because they could use TJ Slayton more as a true nose with Clark and Jerron Reed or Dean Lowry or Devontae White or whatever they want to do. Maybe lined up in a little bit different, set, or just get them involved in different spots, right? So there is that opportunity. But if I'm Joe Barry and company, I don't want to get Kenny Clark too far away from Garrett Bradbury, because I don't think Bradbury can block Kenny Clark one-on-one, which means that they're going to have to provide help, which should free up guys like Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith and whoever else they want to put out there on the defensive front to get some one-on-one matchups. And you could also use, whether it's Devondre or Quay Walker as a potential blitzer up the middle to try and get Kenny Clark matched up one-on-one on Bradbury. So maybe, Kenny can just win that battle and there's nobody to help. So I think there's some creative things that Joe Barry can do, but if Clark can have another massive game against Garrett Bradbury, that will go a long way in setting up this entire Packers defense for success. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. This Packers defense is at its best when Kenny Clark is at his best. If he can eat, this defense will eat, and he has the ability to, just dominate Garrett Bradbury throughout this game. I think he will, but that'll be another key matchup to keep an eye on. Next, Dalvin Cook versus the speed at inside linebacker of Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker. Dalvin Cook is explosive. He's powerful. He's quick. He's shifty. He is the complete package at running back. An incredibly fun player to watch in the backfield, and he can take it to the house at any given time. And if you give him time, space, anything, he will take every ounce that you give him and then more. So it is going to be of the utmost importance that your inside linebackers are not only sure tackling and in the right spot at the right time, but they need to have the ability to get sideline to sideline, and they have the ability to point, really hold up at the point of attack against a very powerful runner in Dalvin Cook as well. So the big thing here is Dalvin Cook's going to want to get outside and create some of those explosive runs. And I'm telling you right now, this Packers defense in training camp all summer long, when the Packers offense tried to run stretch or toss plays to the outside, it was Devondre Campbell or Quay Walker getting to the sideline, getting there basically before the running back even had the opportunity to turn upfield. There is ridiculous speed for these inside linebackers. They should be able to get to their spots, especially if guys like Kenny Clark, TJ Slayton, Dean Lowry, etc. can hold up those, offensive linemen at the point of attack. But expect to see some real speed at inside linebacker, the most speed that, again, I think I've seen in my lifetime with Campbell and Quay. So that is another fun matchup is for the Vikings, can they get Dalvin Cook going? For the Packers, can Campbell and Quay shut him down, especially when trying to run to the outside? All right, we can't go much further without talking about Jair Alexander versus Justin Jefferson. You go back to that game, Packers-Vikings in Minnesota a season ago, no Jair Alexander, and Justin Jefferson just went off in a near almost unstoppable way. Like, he was so ridiculously good, and Stokes and Douglas and the rest of the crew it didn't work. And they're going to have to figure out a way to match up Jair Alexander on Justin Jefferson when needed. I mentioned this the other day. I think they'll very much go with Rasul Douglas in the slot, Jair and Stokes on the outside on early downs. But I fully expect in obvious passing situations, or if Green Bay's up late and Minnesota has to pass their way back into it, that you will see Jair Alexander travel with Justin Jefferson. And to some extent, if Jefferson just gets going and Douglas and Stokes aren't having success against him, even on early downs, I think you're going to have to start seeing Jair Alexander start traveling with him. So this is going to be a team approach. They're going to have to use some safeties over the top on Justin Jefferson. They're going to have to really be cognizant of where he is at all times. But when we get Jair Alexander versus Justin Jefferson, it should be phenomenal. We had the opportunity to see Stephon Diggs and that Bills offense versus Jalen Ramsey. Well, Diggs and the Bills offense won that matchup easily. Ramsey was terrible. Now we get to see Justin Jefferson versus Jair Alexander. I have a hunch that Jair will, hold up just a little bit better than what Jalen Ramsey did on Thursday Night Football. And then right on the opposite, side of the field from Jair, you've got Eric Stokes, and probably a lot of Eric Stokes versus Adam Thielen. And why I think this matchup is so important is because, A, if you are in fact dedicating Jair Alexander to Justin Jefferson, you're hoping that limits the damage that Jefferson can do. So the Vikings may have to look a little bit closer at Adam Thielen, and certainly Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen have an incredible connection. Now, when does Thielen start to fall off? This is usually the point in a wide receiver's career where maybe he's lost a step or things like that. But why I'm watching this is because you have a ridiculously athletic and fast corner in Eric Stokes. You've got a shifty and manipulative and crafty wide receiver in Adam Thielen, who knows all the ins and outs of the game, is really just a student of playing wide receiver, I guess is how I would put it. And more often than not, I've seen Eric Stokes, when he struggle against those type of wide receivers, because it's just pure technique versus pure athleticism. And, athleticism can get you a long way. But at some point, if everyone, if the player across from you is using amazing technique and you're not quite there yet, that player is going to have an advantage. And I think Adam Thielen could have an advantage on Eric Stokes. And if Stokes can do a really good job on him and really help shut down Adam Thielen, now you're talking about this Packers defense really being able to play a shutdown brand of football. If Stokes is taking out Thielen, if, Jair's taking out Jefferson, if those inside linebackers and Quay and Devondre are helping to shut down Dalvin Cook, now you've got a real recipe for success on defense. So those are the matchups I'm watching there. All right, on the other, or actually I should say on the offensive line side for the Vikings with a little pass rush for the Packers, I really want to see what Rashawn Gary can do against these offensive tackles. Probably will play more against Brian O'Neill, but we'll probably see him a little bit against Christian Darrisaw as well. Rashawn Gary needs to be that dude. He needs to be the guy. He needs to be the, hey, I'm going to get at least a sack and more than a handful of pressures in just about every single game I play in, because that's what he's capable of. I'd love to see him get a forced fumble or some big play as well, because that's what he's capable of. But these are two good tackles in Darrisaw and O'Neal. And I really want to see just how disruptive Rashawn Gary can be. And if Darrisaw and O'Neal can win their fair share of battles, I don't think they're going to, but if they can win those more often than not, that's going to give Minnesota a real boost and give them a real opportunity to win this game. If they can't hold up against Rashawn Gary, then look out. And again, with all those things I mentioned earlier, the corner matchups, the inside linebackers, Green Bay's got some fun matchups in this one, but Gary, if he can win on the outside, it's going to definitely make everything easier for the rest of his teammates. Next up, Canaan Wangu and Jalen Reagor versus the Packers coverage units. Jalen Reagor already has a punt return touchdown against the Packers in his career, and Wangu is one of the more fun, exciting, speedy kick returners in the league, and you can bet that these Packers special teams units are going to get tested early and often in this game, and they got to be up to the task. And they went out and got guys like Rudy Ford, Dallin Levitt, Keyshawn Nixon. They kept around guys like Isaiah McDuffie and Chris Barnes. Like, they have a fairly good special teams core. Now they have to go out and put it on the field and let Rich Bisaccia and that group hopefully hold their own against a very talented return unit for the Minnesota Vikings. And then last but not least, Aaron Rodgers and Matt Lafleur versus Ed Donatel, the new defensive coordinator in Minnesota, now running a 3-4. He's been around a long time, including with the Packers back in the day. But I like this matchup for Green Bay, meaning I think Matt Lafleur is going to be a step ahead of Ed Donatel. And I think even when Donatel maybe gets one up on Matt Lafleur, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to see it, notice it, and take advantage of it and switch the play to a play that he needs to be successful with. So I really think that Green Bay's offensive minds here can be a lot better than Minnesota's defensive minds. It's not to say that Donatel hasn't been around the block and doesn't know a few things, because he does. He's going to make things very challenging on Matt Lafleur and Aaron Rodgers, but I think they can outsmart Ed Donatel, find some ways to attack that Minnesota defense, and I just think overall that's a very fun matchup to watch and to see, all right, can Matt Lafleur scheme some players open? Can Aaron Rodgers pick up on some tendencies, change some plays at the line of scrimmage, and take advantage of whatever weakness it is that is, displayed by Ed Donatel in this Vikings defense? That is going to do it for me today. Like I said, we are one day away from Packers-Vikings. I hope you're having a great weekend. Make sure to check out tomorrow's show as we do a final Packers-Vikings pregame show. I'll be right back here tomorrow. Don't miss it. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.